Hi, I'm Chaplain Stoney Douthitt, Southeast Chaplain Recruiting Station. We're seeking the most qualified religious professionals to become chaplains in the U.S. Army and the U.S. Army Reserve. You know, chaplains have to be fit and prepared to serve. Today, we're talking about the 2-mile run. We are continuing in our series called Prepare to Serve, and we're focusing on fitness and being fit to serve as U.S. Army chaplains. And specifically, we're taking a look at the ACFT 2-mile run portion. Before we get to that, I would like you to take the opportunity to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you need to do on social media to continue to roll out this message that we are still in need of chaplains in the U.S. Army and the U.S. Army Reserve, and even chaplain candidates. So if you'd like to contact us after this video, please put it in the comments and seek us out, and we'll let you know what it is to become a U.S. Army chaplain. I should also mention that I am not a medical professional, so while I'm giving advice on how to do better at some of these physical events, if you are a civilian, you should always check with your doctor first, and if you are military personnel, you should check with your master fitness trainer to make sure that what you are doing is not going to injure you. So that being said, we are focusing on the 2-mile run portion of the Army Combat Fitness Test. You can see I'm in my gym, I'm not out running. I wish I were. Maybe we'll throw a clip in there of me running otherwise, but I think you know what it is to run. Don't have to demonstrate that much. But what we want to talk about is how the 2-mile run of the old APFT is a little different than the 2-mile run of the ACFT. And the reason is simply that the APFT had 3 events, right? It had push-ups, sit-ups, and a 2-mile run in that order, and you had rest built in to those in the cycle. And we would typically complete that test in probably about an hour, maybe even an hour and a half, depending on some units and their proximity to a run course. The new ACFT has rules about how long it can take to accomplish the test. It's designed to be done within an hour. So that last 20 or so minutes of the run, up to 21 minutes to pass, is the last section of an hour-long block. So if you're planning out the time and you have 6 events, you've got 5 events, then a run, that is significantly different as far as how you plan your energy. That was intentional in the planning. The Army wants you to think about how much energy you are investing in certain events that are more cardiovascular in nature. For example, there may be many people that can max out the sprint, drag, carry in the middle of the test and then maybe not have enough energy to pass the run at the end. So you have to balance out your energy that you're expending, and that's expected as part of the test. So that does affect how you train for it as well, I believe. So the run time for passing the 2-mile run has gotten easier. So it's only a 21-minute 2-mile. If you're doing the math on that, that is, I think that's 2 10.5-minute miles. So well above what's considered the normal Army standard, which is a 9-minute mile. And 2 9-minute miles will earn you 18-minute 2-mile, and that actually passes the black or heavy standard for this. And the max times are very similar to the old max times, and you get into the 14s, 13s, things like that. You're doing stellar. But passing is 21 minutes, and that sounds easy, but bear in mind it comes at the end of a very long hour of tests, with sometimes a little rest in between. Or no rest. You are allowed to move from station to station if you want to go ahead and do that and get more rest later. It's a little bit different like that because you've got a couple of other cardiovascular tests before it, and you are potentially taxing your legs in a way in the sprint, drag, carry before you ever get to the run. And a lot of people are reporting a lot of lactic acid buildup in the legs, so that they've got a jelly leg or a rubber leg when they are starting to run, rather than at about the mile in, whereas normally that sets in. So I think you have to train for that. So how would you train for that? Well, what I've been doing is instead of just going for my 2-mile run to test it, I've been doing that, but I've also been working out and then going for a 2-mile run. So tax myself for 30 minutes on other workouts and then go do the run, and to see how my body reacts to that and to do better on that. But as always with running, I think there are some good things, some good practices that I've seen over time to help you run faster, because after all, this is not just about making it to the end. This is not just some 5K or 10K or even the Army 10 miler where you're just trying to survive to get to the end. This is a timed run. So if you don't make it within that 21 minutes, you fail. And fail is fail, right? So we all want to run this as fast as we can. So how do you train to run faster? Well, a lot of people in the military would say, well, you just do it more and it'll be better. That can help with your overall fitness. Obviously, if you're trying to slim down, and so more running might be better, more miles. And for some of you are natural runners, natural distance runners, the running may be easy and maybe your natural go-to thing, that's fine. But I would subject to you that most of us, the only way to run faster is to run faster. That running more miles at a slower pace is really going to train you to run at that pace. And if that pace is at a 10-mile, then you're going to pass this. That's fine. But if you're trying to aim for, let's say, an 8-minute mile, and you're running 5 miles at a 10-mile pace, you're never going to get there to do that. The only way you're going to do to run faster is to run faster. So what I do to get at that, first of all, I test myself every week. So in testing myself every week, I want to make sure I find a flat area, a flat course, which can be difficult depending on where you are. Preferably it would be the course that I'm actually going to run for the test. If you're on an Army post, you can probably find the exact place you're going to run. Run that every week if you're allowed, and test yourself. Even if it's on the weekend, test yourself to see how you're doing on that. So when I do that, I do something that's a little controversial. If I can't run at my chosen pace to the entire race, then I run and then I walk, and I run and I walk. And sometimes I get some looks because people think that you're sandbagging, you're not really putting in your best effort. But I have found that I get a better run time when I sprint out at my sprint pace, my best pace. And then when I get completely gassed, I rest for 5, maybe 6, 7 seconds and get some oxygen back into my muscles. And then I sprint again. And they can say what they want, but I typically outrun those people. So I will run at a 7.5, 8-minute pace, for example, take a rest, and the person running at a solid 8 to 8.5 will pass me once or twice, but eventually I will pull away from them on the sprinting. And I actually get a better run time by doing that. It all depends on how you're built. But I would recommend to you that at least in the training phase, the way you teach your body to run faster is to run faster. You run for the pace that you want to be. You clock yourself, get some kind of device. Maybe you do it on a track, whatever. Run that pace that you want to be for as long as you can. And when you can't run it any longer, walk. If you slow down and run at a slower pace, you're teaching your body to run at that slower pace. Eventually, if you only run at the pace you want to run and walk otherwise, then you'll be able to run longer at that pace and longer at that pace. And eventually you will run your entire 2 miles at that pace. When you get to your pace, then you can start over and run faster at another pace. I hope that makes sense. There's a little math involved there. It seems to work with a lot of people. This is good running theory. People have been doing intervals or fartleks for a long time to increase their run speed because they know that if you run at a solitary pace the whole time, you're never going to break out of that same pace. So test yourself every week, run faster in intervals, and then I would also say to you that you probably need a sprint day in there as well. And what a sprint day normally looks like to me is maybe on a Wednesday, I will jog out a mile to a place I'm going to sprint. And then I will go there and I will run sprints. And you can Google what it is to do a sprint workout, but I'll probably do about a mile in sprints of some kind of variety. Maybe I'm running around a track and I sprint the long ones, sprint the length, walk the curve, and sprint the length again. Do that for 4 laps, and then I jog back. And I'm training my body to accept the fact that I want it to run faster sometimes. And over time, your your pace will increase because you've taught your body to sprint. So those are the two things that I would recommend to get your time up or down, as it were, to run faster, is test yourself weekly. And while you test yourself, sprint and walk, sprint and walk, sprint longer every time if you can, that's great. But then also do an actual sprint workout. And then lastly, I would say, especially for an aging population, which is usually chaplains, we have to think about things like our back and our knees and our joints. I can't tell you how many senior chaplains I know that have to have joint replacements and things just because of the lifestyle of the Army. And so my last recommendation for you is to save your knees when you can. And so do cardio that's not running. So for example, if you're not in a unit that's running 5 miles a day, why are you running 5 miles a day? Who are you proving that to? Now, if running's your thing, go for it. But for a lot of us, general athleticism and general fitness is what we're aiming for. So there's no badge of honor for being able to run 5 miles a day and just wearing yourself out. So why not instead, right? So do the things I said, test your 2 mile every week, do a sprint workout every week, but on those other days when you're looking for cardio, do other cardio. Cardio doesn't have to be running. It could be cycling, a ski erg, you could do an elliptical, a rower, any cardio, right? Even ruck marching might be preferable to another 5 mile run, because I think if you look at the numbers on the calories you burn and the benefits of it, a slow 5 mile run is not going to be as beneficial for an hour, hour and a half than it would be if you just spent 20 minutes on an elliptical, really going hard at it with a slightly different muscle group, or a rower, really going hard at it. You're still getting the heart-lung benefit that's going to help you on the run, but you're not using the same muscles. And it still falls back to that same principle. 1 or 2 times a week is really all you need to train something. You need rest. This is more true the older you get. The reason why this theory doesn't get worked out into the Army too much is most of the people in the Army are young, right? And so by the time they're hitting 40 and they're starting to get age issues, they're retiring, they're getting out. Well, chaplains, docs, lawyers, as professionals, we get in a little late in the game. So we have to think about how do we do things creatively to still not only meet the standard, but exceed it. And also protect our bodies so that we can keep doing this into our 60s, which is not the normal Army expectation. Let's face it, when I'm 62 and the Army puts me out, I'm gonna wanna still have a full life after that, 20, 30 years more of ministry. I'm not just gonna wanna go sit down because my knees hurt. So I need to protect that as well. Well, thank you for listening to this. I hope it's useful as we talk about the run. Again, the ACFT 2 mile run is the same, but it's gonna be different. And if you're not training for it to be different, you're gonna be shocked. I know I was when I did my first diagnostic. I was shocked at how much jelly leg I had and how difficult it was to just do the passing standard, when ordinarily the run is not an issue for me. So we're going to talk about the other events as we go along, but for now, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. As always, like and subscribe and share this as much as you can. Please comment any questions, comments that you might have, not just about the run, anything that I said. I'm open to dialogue on that, although I'm not a running expert. I know how my body works. I can only speak to that, but I am an expert on how you can become an Army chaplain. So if you're called to that, you believe you're called to that, just comment down below and we can have that discussion. Reach out, connect. All the information is there in the comment section. And especially future chaplains, let's get out there and get prepared to serve for God and country.